welcome to story time, and we are going to talk about something that starts with this letter. Do you know what letter that is? You're right, it's a letter S, and I wrote the capital letter S and the lowercase letter s. And there's a couple words on this board that say what we're going to talk about. So I'll read a few books first, and then we'll see if you can read those two words on the whiteboard. And our first book is called Growing Vegetable Soup by Lois Earhart. Dad says we're going to grow vegetable soup. We're ready to work, and our tools are ready too. We have a rake and a shovel and a hoe. We are planting the seeds. So let's see, they're planting green beans and peas, corn, zucchini, and carrot seeds. Carrot seeds are super tiny. And all the sprouts, tomatoes, potatoes, broccoli, onions, peppers, and cabbage. And giving them water. And waiting for the warm sun to make them grow. And grow. And grow into plants. We watch over them and weed until the vegetables are ready for us to pick. Or dig up. What vegetables grow under the ground that you have to dig up? Potatoes and carrots are some of them. And we carry home, then we wash them. And cut them and put them in a pot of water. And cook them into vegetable soup. At last, it's time to eat it all up. It was the best soup ever. And we can grow it again next year. You don't have to wait for your vegetables to grow in your garden. You can go to the farmer's market or a grocery store and get all kinds of vegetables and make your own vegetable soup at home. And duck soup is our next story by Jackie Urbanovic. That's a big name to say. There's Duck making soup. This was it. A little pepper, some salt, a little parsley and potato. Soup! This would be Max's masterpiece. Ooh la la, this is going to be grand. Max had made lots of soups before. Fish soup with curry and pickled lemon. Red hot chili soup, squash gumbo, Cracker Barrel cheese, and marshmallow soup, the way too many bean soup. He had cooked them all, but every recipe had been created by another chef, not Max. Now he was making his own soup, the soup that he, Maxwell Duck, would be remembered for inventing. Slurp, slurp, sip. It smells perfect, but the taste is not quite right. Max thought it over. A pinch of this, a pinch of that. Broccoli, zucchini, chives. That's it. It needs an herb from the garden. Just wait, my delicate broth. Max will be back to make you perfecto in uno momento. Smack! The front door slammed shut as Brody, Dakota, and Bibi walked in. Sniff, sniff. Ooh, what smells so good? Asked Brody. Max must be cooking again. I hope it's better than last time, said Dakota. Hey, Max! Maxie! Where are you? Called Brody. We're about to eat your soup, added Dakota. So, what's wrong? Asked Brody. Taste it already, Dakota. Dakota gasped. I think I know where Max went. Where do you think Max went? We know. Do you think they'll figure it out? I told him he should never cook alone. Do you think he fell in? I'm sure he did. Call for help, cried Bibi. Help! There's no time, said Dakota. Max, grab the spoon, yelled Dakota. That won't work, said Bibi. He can't hear you. I know, the strainer. Strainer? The big bowl with the little holes. Grab it. Brody hoped that the soup would go down the drain and Max would stay behind. It's his head, said Bibi. Silly, it's only a potato, Brody replied. Eyeballs, his eyeballs, said Bibi. Guys, it's only tiny onions, said Brody. His feet, yelled Dakota. Calm down, you two, it's only carrot slices, said Brody. Smack! They all looked up as the back door slammed shut. Who could that be? My soup! Max! 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 That night, Max was very quiet over dinner. Cheer up, Max, you're still a great chef, said Irene, and you'll cook your perfect soup someday, soon, she added. And it'll be great, said Brody. Really great, said Bibi. We know you're disappointed, said Irene, but at least you're not duck soup. They all agreed, even Max. All right, so now we've read 2 books about soup. And we have the word soup and another kind of soup, a really thick, chunky soup. It can sometimes be called stew. So we have soup and stew, and they both start with S. And our next book is about the months of the year. So why don't we sing a little song to remember what all the months of the year are. So if you know it, you can sing with me. So let's see. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. These are the months of the year. And you can sing it as faster and faster and faster as you learn the months. And it gets really silly sometimes when you sing it really fast. And this one is called Chicken Soup with Rice. It's a book of months by Maurice Sendak. January. In January, it's so nice while slipping and sliding on ice to sip hot chicken soup with rice. Sipping once, sipping twice, sipping chicken soup with rice. February. In February, it will be my snowman's anniversary with cake for him and soup for me. Happy once, happy twice. Happy chicken soup with rice. March. In March, the wind blows down the door and spills my soup upon the floor. It laps it up and roars for more, blowing once, blowing twice, blowing chicken soup with rice. April. In April, I will go away to far off Spain or old Bombay and dream about hot soup all day. Oh my, oh once, oh my, oh twice. Oh my, oh chicken soup with rice. May. In May, I truly think it is best to be a robin, lightly dressed, concocting soup inside my nest. Mix it once, mix it twice, mix that chicken soup with rice. June. In June, I saw a charming group of roses all began to droop. I pepped them up with chicken soup. Sprinkle once, sprinkle twice, sprinkled chicken soup with rice. July. In July, I'll take a peep into the cool and fishy deep where chicken soup is selling cheap. Selling once, selling twice, selling chicken soup with rice. August. In August, it will be so hot I will become a cooking pot. Cooking soup, of course. Why not? Cooking once, cooking twice, cooking chicken soup with rice. September. In September for a while I will ride a crocodile down the chicken soupy Nile. Paddle once, paddle twice, paddle chicken soup with rice. October. We just finished the month of October. In October, I'll be the host to witches, goblins, and a ghost. I'll serve them chicken soup on toast. Whoopie once, whoopie twice, whoopie chicken soup with rice. And November, it's November this month. November. In November's gusty gale, I will flop my fishy tail and spout hot soup. I'll be a whale, spouting once, spouting twice, spouting chicken soup with rice. December. In December, I will be a baubled, bangled Christmas tree with soup bowls draped all over me. Merry once, merry twice, merry chicken soup with rice. I told you once, I told you twice, all the seasons of the year are nice for eating chicken soup with rice. And that is the end of that one. And our next one is called Every Color Soup by Jory Hurley. What colors are the vegetables on this cover? What's this one? It's green, and carrots are orange. Tomatoes are red. And this is an eggplant, and eggplants are purple. So we're gonna look at all the colors that can go into soup. We are making every color soup. We'll need purple, and that's an eggplant. Yellow, onions and corn. Orange, do you know what those are? You're right, they're carrots. White, salt and garlic. Red, tomatoes. Green, celery and parsley. Clear, that's broth. How many cups of broth do we need for this soup? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cups. brown with mushrooms and a potato. Blue, lentils. And lentils can be lots of different colors. They're a really fun food to cook with. Black, it's pepper. Chop. Drop. Bubble. Yum. And then it shows on the back of this book the recipe that they made this vegetable soup with. So you can check this one out from your library and then try the recipe if you'd like. And this one is The Wolf's Chicken Stew by Kiko Kaza. I want you to think about, what do you think is going to happen? What is the wolf going to do? Try to make a prediction. There once lived a wolf who loved to eat more than anything else in the world. As soon as he finished one meal, he began to think of the next. One day, the wolf got a terrible craving for chicken stew. All day long, he walked across the forest in search of a delicious chicken. Finally, he spotted one. Ah, she is just perfect for my stew, he thought. What do you think is going to happen next? The wolf crept closer, but just as he was about to grab his prey, he had another idea. If there was just some way to fatten this bird a little more, he thought, there would be all the more stew for me. So the wolf ran home to his kitchen and he began to cook. First, he made 100 scrumptious pancakes. Then late at night, he left them on the chicken's porch. Eat well, my pretty chicken, he cried. Get nice and fat for my stew. The next night, he brought 100 scrumptious donuts. Eat well, my pretty chicken, he cried. Get nice and fat for my stew. What do you think? Is the chicken eating all those sweets? And on the next night, he brought a scrumptious cake weighing 100 pounds. Eat well, my pretty chicken, he cried. Get nice and fat for my stew. At last, all was ready. This was the night he had been waiting for. He put a large stew pot on the fire and set out joyfully to find his dinner. That chicken must be as fat as a balloon by now, he thought. Let's see. But as he peeked into the chicken's house, the door opened suddenly and the chicken screeched. Oh, it was you, Mr. Wolf. Children, look. The pancakes and donuts and that scrumptious cake, they weren't from Santa Claus. All those presents were from Uncle Wolf. The baby chicks jumped all over the wolf and gave him 100 kisses. Oh, thank you, Uncle Wolf. You're the best cook in the world. Uncle Wolf didn't have chicken stew that night, but Mrs. Chicken fixed him a nice dinner anyway. Ah, shucks, he thought as he walked home. Maybe tomorrow I'll bake the little critters 100 scrumptious cookies. And there they are with their basket of scrumptious cookies. Scrumptious is another word that starts with S. And our last story for today is Stone Soup. And this is a really old story by Marcia Brown. And stone and soup both start with, can you say it? Letter S. It even says Stone Soup, an old tale. Three soldiers trudged down a road in a strange country. They were on their way home from the wars. Besides being tired, they were hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. "How I would like a good dinner tonight," said the first, "and a bed to sleep in," said the second. "But all that is impossible," said the third. "We must march on." On they marched. Suddenly, ahead of them, they saw lights of a village. "Maybe we'll find a bite to eat there," said the first. "And a loft to sleep in," said the second. "No harm in asking," said the third. Now the peasants of that place feared strangers. When they heard that 3 soldiers were coming down the road, they talked amongst themselves. "Here come 3 soldiers. Soldiers are always hungry, but we have little enough food for ourselves," and they hurried to hide their food. They pushed sacks of barley under the hay in lofts. They lowered buckets of milk down into the wells. They spread old quilts over the carrot bins. They hid their cabbages and potatoes under the bed. They hung their meat in the cellar. They hid all they had to eat. Then they waited. The soldiers stopped first at the first house of Paul and Francois. "Good evening to you," they said. "Could you spare a bit of food for 3 hungry soldiers?" "We have no food for ourselves for 3 days," said Paul. Francois made a sad face. "It's been a poor harvest." 3 soldiers went on to the house of Albert and Louise. "Could you spare a bit of food, and have you some corner where we could sleep for the night?" "Oh, no," said Albert. "We gave all we could spare to soldiers who came before you." "Our beds are full," said Louise. At Vincent and Marie's, the answer was the same. It had been a poor harvest, and all the grain must be kept for seed. So it went through all the village. Not a peasant had any food to give away. They all had good reasons. One family had used the grain for feed. Another had an old sick father to care for. All had too many mouths to feed. The villagers stood in the street and sighed. They looked as hungry as they could. 3 soldiers talked together. Then the first soldier called out, "Good people!" The peasants drew near. "We are 3 hungry soldiers in a strange land. We have asked you for food, and you have no food. Well then, we'll have to make stone soup." The peasants stared. Stone soup? That would be something to know about. "First we'll need a large iron pot," the soldiers said. The peasants brought the largest pot they could find. How else to cook enough? "Now that's none too large," said the soldiers, "but it will do. And now water to fill it and a fire to heat it." It took many buckets of water to fill the pot. A fire was built on the village square, and the pot was set to boil. And now, if you please, 3 round, smooth stones. Those were easy enough to find. The peasants' eyes grew round as they watched the soldiers drop the stones into the pot. What do you think? Can you make soup from stones? Let's find out. "Any soup needs salt and pepper," said the soldiers as they began to stir. Children ran to fetch salt and pepper. Stones like these generally make good soup, but oh, if there were carrots, it would be so much better. "Why, I think I have a carrot or 2, said Francois, and off she ran. She came back with her apron full of carrots from the bin beneath the red quilt. "A good soup should have a cabbage," said the soldiers as they sliced carrots into the pot. "But no use asking for what you don't have." "I think I could find a cabbage somewhere," said Marie, and she hurried home. Back she came with 3 cabbages from the cupboard under her bed. "If we only had a bit of beef and a few potatoes, this soup would be good enough for a rich man's table." The peasants thought that over. They remembered their potatoes and the sides of beef hanging in the cellars. They ran to fetch them. A rich man's soup, and all that from a few stones. It seemed like magic. "Ah," sighed the soldiers as they stirred in the beef and potatoes, "if we only had a little barley and a cup of milk, the soup would be fit for the king himself." Indeed, he asked just for what a soup last. I'm sorry, back it up. Indeed, he asked just for a soup when we dined with us last. The peasants looked at each other. The soldiers had entertained the king. Well, but no use asking for what you don't have, the soldiers sighed. The peasants brought their barley from the loft, and they brought their milk from the wells. The soldiers stirred the barley and the milk into the steaming broth, while the peasants stared. At last the soup was ready. "All of you shall taste," the soldiers said, "but first a table must be set." Great tables were placed in the square, and all around were lighted torches. Such a soup! How good it smelled, truly fit for a king. But when the peasants asked themselves, would not such a soup require bread, and a roast, and cider? Soon a banquet was spread, and everyone sat down to eat. Never had been such a feast, never had the peasants tasted such soup, and fancy, made from stones. They ate and drank and ate and drank, and after that they danced. They danced and sang far into the night. At last they were tired. Then the 3 soldiers asked, "Is there not a loft where we could sleep?" "Let 3 such wise and splendid gentlemen sleep in a loft? Indeed, they must have the best beds in the village." So the first soldier slept at the priest's house, and the second soldier slept at the baker's house, and the third soldier slept in the mayor's house. In the morning, the whole village gathered in the square to give them a send-off. "Many thanks for what you have taught us," the peasants said to the soldiers. "We shall never go hungry now that we know how to make soup from stones." "Oh, it's all in the knowing how," said the soldiers, and off they went down the road. Such men don't grow on every bush. And the end. So when they all came together and shared all their food, they had enough for everybody. Well, thank you for joining me for story time today, and practice your letter S. See how many words you can find this week that start with S. And make sure to check in with your library on the website and our social media for make and take kits and digital programs. See you next week. Bye.